Hey there, welcome to the Bernie Miklasz Show here on the great STL Sports Central, presented by DraftKings. The crown is yours. The Bernie Show's here with you Monday through Friday. I do 5 of them a week, and I do write 5 columns a week here on STL Sports Central. You can also catch me frequently on KMOX, and I joined my friend and colleague here, Randy Carricker, on his wonderful morning show, at least once a week, a couple different segments. Please do us a favor here at STL Sports Central by subscribing to our YouTube channel and hitting the like button and all that good stuff. That really helps us, so we appreciate you for doing it. Please consider that, and we thank you very much. Today's topic, going to be some people who don't like this one. We ain't going to like it at all. At least some people. Oh boy, am I in trouble now? But a man got to do what a man got to do. So today's topic is an appreciation of John Mozeliak. Gasp! And his integrity for the way he handled the controversial firing of manager Mike Shildt after the 2021 season. Pardon my sarcasm, but I got to have a little fun, right? As I reminded anyone who watched the Bernie Show on Wednesday, I knew why Mike Shildt was fired at the time that he was fired. I didn't have the full details right away, so I couldn't go fully into it because I didn't have the full information. But by the next morning, I had gathered enough dependent information that made me confident to go on my radio show and disclose the basics of the rift between Mike Shildt and his coaching staff. And I related to our listeners, said, here, look, this is no mystery here. There's a big blow up of Shildt and the coaches. He was treating them poorly. At least the coaches thought that way. And there was a lot of back and forth, and Mike Shildt wanted to fire people. And, especially now that we know about the way it ended for Shildt in San Diego, he's got a hard time controlling his temper. And I would even say a hard time controlling his ego. And he's got this authority complex or something. I don't know. But in St. Louis, he had subjected his coaches to withering criticism, some cruel remarks. They took it personally, as they should have. And as we eventually learned, the coaches had enough of Shilt's frequent abuse. So something had to give. So Shildt, as I mentioned, was determined to fire a lot of the coaching staff. I don't know the exact number, but let's put it this way, as I was going to mention later on. When Shildt got the job in San Diego, you didn't see any St. Louis coaches go out there, did you? Maybe that tells us something. Anyway, John Mozeliak wouldn't let Shildt, be the dictator and decide, to fire everybody and everything else. This created a conflict, and we know how it ended. And as I've said oftentimes over the years, Shildt just wouldn't back down, and he wouldn't cool down. He had a fever to fire someone, and John Mozeliak had to make a tough decision. And he decided Shildt had to go. And based on what we know now, with more and more details spilling out in recent days, even Mozeliak's decision was absolutely, positively justified. See, Mozeliak knew what was going on, and he knew the way that Shildt was treating the staff, and he had tried to smooth things over, but it obviously didn't work. And even though I quickly reported on the source of the conflict, and I was happy to pass it on to the public, I did not know at the time the depth of Shilt's hostility and the cruelty that he had directed at his coaches and other members of the support staff. It was really much worse than I knew at the time, but I knew it was bad, which is why I went on the radio and said this is why he was fired. This week, Shildt retired from his job as Padres manager. You can retire as a way to make it look pretty good if you think you're about to get fired. Anyway, Shildt lasted for only 2 seasons of a 4-year contract. Kevin Acee, the outstanding baseball beat writer for the San Diego Union Tribune, covers the Padres. He's not afraid to go after a tough story. Really appreciate that. He did an excellent job reporting on Shilt's erratic and temperamental conduct as a Padres manager, and with details of really harsh treatment of coaches. Even Shildt said to Kevin Acee, well, yeah, the St. Louis and San Diego, it's eerily familiar, isn't it? You can't make this stuff up. Anyway, Acee collected new information about Shilt's breakup with the Cardinals. Much praise to him for doing that, because I had stopped looking for information. I figured what's gone is gone is gone. It's over. But when Shildt lost job number 2, maybe he, if it's voluntarily, fine, but basically he cracked in the job again. Well, this brings back the firing in St. Louis into kind of a refocus. So I read this stuff to you yesterday, and I want to do it again before I turn my focus back to John Mozeliak and how he handled this now that we know what we know. Here's the essence of Kevin Acey's reporting, and I quote from it directly. I'm going to read now from his work. Quote, the issues that surfaced in San Diego were virtually identical to the issues that several league sources said led to Shildt's abrupt dismissal in St. Louis. The Cardinals have only ever said publicly that Shildt was fired due to, quote, philosophical differences. That's Kevin Acey. And Kevin Acey continued on that. Quote, a half dozen sources, including current and former members of the Cardinals organization, and two people who were part of front offices elsewhere that considered interviewing Shildt in the month after he was fired in St. Louis, said that some Cardinals coaches and others threatened to quit if Shildt remained in St. Louis. So thanks to AC, we now know the full extent of the rift, the breakup between Shildt and his St. Louis coaching staff. And this rift expanded even more when Shildt demanded that Mozeliak take action and get rid of this guy, that guy, this guy. I want him out. He's got to go. And I'm telling you, he's got to go, or forget about any of this stuff. Okay, well, as I always repeat, and I feel like I have to repeat because I know I can't, I know that not everybody watches every video, but it's just, I feel like I got to keep saying it because I'm like stunned, and yeah, I'm stammering. It happens. Been doing it since I was like 5 years old. Anyway, it still astonishes me that people think that a baseball manager like runs everything. He's got the final word. It's like the word of God or something. I mean, it's incredibly stupid, but so many people seem to believe that. Managers don't give orders to the person who runs a baseball operation. Just as I pointed out, the person who runs a baseball operation, no matter what his or her name is, they don't get to bark out orders to the team's ownership. So I'm going to tell you how we're going to do this, and that's that. You're going to do it. In fact, in what business in America does it work like that? The answer would be nowhere. So why would we expect it to be like that in St. Louis? Oh, I know why. Because people hate John Mozeliak so much. So it's like, if Shildt wanted to fire everybody, who knows? I'm being facetious now. Firing the caterer, firing, whoever he didn't like, it's like Napoleon complex or something. I got to fire everybody. No, it doesn't work that way. The term philosophical differences has struck the Mozeliak since he got rid of Shildt. Fans and media, understandably, were turned off by Mozeliak's lack of transparency. I voiced some stuff on that, but I also knew why he fired Mike Shildt. And so I didn't go hard and attack Mozeliak at that time for not revealing much because I knew what was going on. And I knew what I had to know to put that out in the public. It was a coaching staff feud with the manager, and the manager pushing Mozeliak really hard to do something Mozeliak was not willing to do. So Mozeliak, and it's always funny because I was getting criticized at times, like, Bernie, why are you so gentle on Mo and all this? Like, why aren't you hammering him and harpooning him? Because once again, I knew why he fired Shildt. Ain't my fault that the other people in the St. Louis media ignored it or just disregarded it or never made the aggressive number of calls that I did. So anyway, I understand, though, the lack of transparency really hurt John Mozeliak. Credibility, his popularity, and everything else. What was he trying to hide? What is he trying to hide? Well, he's trying to hide plenty. And do you know who benefited from that, as it turned out? Mike Shildt. Mike Shildt benefited from the fact that John Mozeliak was secretive after he decided to fire the manager of the Cardinals. Mike Shildt benefited. I'll explain when I return for my second segment of the Bernie Show, and I'll go deeper into this and some background on the Mozeliak-Shildt relationship and why I believe Mo deserves some credit for staying quiet at a time when he was under attack for firing Mike Shildt and under attack for the way he fired Mike Shildt. I want to change the subject, though, to remind you that sports fans in St. Louis and throughout Missouri do not have to wait much longer because DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook app, is finally coming to the Show Me State. Beginning December the 1st, the DraftKings Sportsbook goes live in the Show Me the Money state of Missouri. And December ain't that far away, but you can get ready right now. And I would say get ready right now so you'll be ready to go when it's go time on December 1st. You just open an account at DraftKings Sportsbook on the app, which is a beautiful app. It works great. Very easy to navigate. And then you'll be all set for instant action when it's go time on December the 1st. By the way, it's only like 46 days from now. So get in there now, get everything organized so you're not going to be like fumbling around on the day of December 1st. New Missouri customers get $300 in bonus bets just by placing a $5 bet. $5. A $5 bet is going to get you $300 in bonus bet. Wait, hold on now. That's basically less than the cost of a cheeseburger and fries, $5. And the burger places don't give you $300 in bonus money because you order one burger and fries. DraftKings, are you sure about this? Yeah, that's what they're going to do. They're doing it. And that's why DraftKings is the best. So you've got live in-game betting. So if your team gets off to a great start, you can jump in mid-play. Or if it gets off to a bad start, you can jump in mid-play. There's a substitution in the game. You think it can make an impact, for example. You can get in the game and bet your instincts on something like that. I got friends who are really good at that stuff. I haven't gotten into it yet because I'm waiting for DraftKings Sportsbook to go live and legal in the state of Missouri on December the 1st. At DraftKings, there's lightning fast payouts. None of this nonsense about, well, you're going to have to wait 3 days. That's our policy before we can give you the money. Well, what? DraftKings doesn't disrespect you that way. You get the money right away. And you've got more ways to get on the action. So prepare for the launch on December the 1st. I keep repeating that date because that's the date you got to remember. And when we go live, you'll be betting with the sports book trusted by millions and millions. Safe and secure, fast withdrawals, everything you want. Now, the rest of it, winning the money, well, that's up to you. And I think you'll enjoy the process. But you got to do the rest. DraftKings is making sure that you're all set to go. So here's the play. You download the DraftKings Sportsbook app. You use the code STL Sports. And when we go live December 1st, that $5 bet turns into $300 in bonus bets. That's code STL Sports in partnership with DraftKings Sportsbook. As I record this video, like I mentioned, it's about 45, 46 days until go time. So don't forget to sign up at DraftKings. Do it soon, and you'll be ready to go on the first day of December. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Must be 21 plus, physically present in Missouri. Eligibility restrictions apply. Bonus bets expire 7 days after they are issued. Excludes customers who redeem pre-launch sign-up offer. Terms at sportsbook.draftkings.com/promos. All right, thanks for being with me today. Let's get in our second segment of the Bernie Show. John Mozeliak had an interesting relationship with Mike Shildt. Mutually interesting relationship. Mozeliak hired Shildt into the Cardinals organization at a time where Shildt, and I don't mean this as a derogatory thing, he was a nobody. He was a guy looking for a way to maybe get into baseball. And Mo got a tip. He said, there's this dude, really smart guy named Mike Shildt. And, I heard you had a scout opening and maybe you ought to look at him. And so Mo did that. He gave Shildt a scouting job and then was impressed by Shildt. And then he gave Shildt a series of minor league coaching jobs in the Cardinal system. Then he gave him minor league managing jobs in the Cardinal system. Then John Mozeliak promoted Mike Shildt to the major leagues as a coach, first base coach, I believe, at the time. And then promoted him again to the bench coach job in St. Louis. And when, Mike Matheny kind of disintegrated into paranoia and it was time to make a change, John Mozeliak selected Mike Shildt to replace Mike Matheny. And Shildt was really outstanding in the job. He made the Cardinals better right away, and he quickly turned that team around. And the Cardinals did not hesitate. John Mozeliak did not hesitate to make Mike Shildt the full-time manager. He lifted the interim tag. He also gave Shildt a multiple-year contract. Everything was good. It was a meaningful partnership. Mo and Shildt worked well together, and there was loyalty for obvious reasons. Now, listen, pardon my language, but only a complete imbecile, a complete fool would believe that John Mozeliak had it in for Mike Shildt when Mo was the direct sponsor and directly responsible for Mike Shildt's career. Mozeliak, in fact, had planned to discuss a contract extension with Shildt after the 2021 season. But this kind of simmering whatever between Shildt and the coaches just got worse and worse. And Shildt, when you got a manager declaring war on his own coaching staff, sorry for the dramatic terminology, you know what I mean? And then because he doesn't get immediately what he wants, like right now, you're going to do this. Well, then he turned his ire on John Mozeliak. There's a term for this. The term is out of control. So Mozeliak is, what president of baseball operations anywhere would basically sit there and be given an ultimatum by a manager. I mean, maybe Tony La Russa could do that, but I don't think Tony La Russa ever flexed muscles like that. So Mozeliak believed that he had to make the change. And metaphorically speaking, Mike Shildt was the guy who wanted to set off all these explosive fireworks, but in his rush to, in his failure to control his own temper, Shildt failed to realize that he himself could be the one that get burned and burned badly. In an interview with 101 ESPN last month, and this bears repeating, Mozeliak said that he wasn't able to disclose more about the Shildt firing because of legal reasons, which probably means there was a non-disclosure agreement between them. So you can't air the dirty laundry, so to speak. So that's why Mozeliak settled on that phrase, philosophical differences, to explain the firing. Okay. Was this good PR? Unless people knew the story why Shildt was fired. No, it was terrible PR. I knew the story, so I wasn't hard on Mo at all for firing him. I was surprised, but I understood there was a good reason to do so. It was the best way to go. But Mo immediately lost the PR battle. And as I said the other day, and I firmly believe this, I'm not just trying to be a smartass, I remember all 2021 season, the Cardinals are struggling. People screaming, calling KMOX, sending me emails. This guy can't manage. You got to fire him. He's terrible. These players walk all over him. Blah, 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 blah. And then they won the 17 games in a row in September, and things started to heat up, and everybody all of a sudden became big Mike Shildt fan. And Mike Shildt in the wild card game, they lost to the Dodgers. He brought in Alex Reyes, who hadn't been good in a month, maybe 6 weeks. The absolute wrong choice to bring him out of the bullpen. Boom! Chris Taylor walk-off. Bye-bye, Cardinals. Season over. So then everyone's simmering and boiling over. And, finally, and oh my gosh, what the correspondence I got after that wild card loss. Mike Shildt's an idiot. Mike Shildt's this. Mike Shildt, guys, they got to do better than this. Look at how he messed up this game. Blah, 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 blah. Mike Shildt only became popular, remarkably popular and very popular, only after the despised evildoer named John Mozeliak fired him. That's when Shildt became popular, okay? And Mozeliak martyred him. But the thing of it is, by doing that, Mozeliak brought a lot of hell on himself. And even if there was a non-disclosure agreement that prohibited Mozeliak from going into full detail about why he had to fire Shildt, let's be grown-ups here, boys and girls. If Mo had wanted to leak unflattering information, spread the dirt, spill the tea on Shildt, he could have easily done that. We all pay attention to media. We know the way this works. You get in touch with some people, say, well, this is why this had to happen, blah, 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 blah. I can't be involved with this. I can't be mentioned, leave me out of it. But I'm just telling you, John Mozeliak could have done that, but he didn't do it. If Mozeliak had wanted to leak unflattering information on Shildt to make him look bad, and to justify the firing, he could have done that. He could have done it and done it and done it over and over and over again. But Mozeliak wouldn't go there. Much to his own detriment, Mozeliak maintained his silence, and he maintained what apparently was a non-disclosure agreement. He did the honorable thing. And so as he sat there maintaining his silence to be an honorable dude, because that was the agreement, you know what happened? the Mozeliak haters turned up the heat and the hate to a higher temperature. So he sat there like basically taking metaphorical beating over and over again, all because he did the honorable thing and didn't spill the tea or dish the dirt on background to reporters. So unless Mozeliak wanted to do something dishonorable by planning stories about Shildt, he really had no way to defend himself. So he didn't try to. He just said, look, we had differences, and I just want to leave it at that. He didn't even try to defend himself. So what do you think happened there? Well, when bullies see they got an opportunity to just keep kicking a guy around, slapping him around, maybe dump him, pick him up and, toss him into a big dumpster or something, they'll keep doing that. On top of that, there's some information I learned in here in the recent days. I'm told that Mozeliak back then made it very clear to the coaches on the St. Louis Cardinals, who no longer wanted to work for Mike Shildt. And it wasn't just coaches, it was support staff. Mo politely requested the St. Louis coaches remain diplomatic. Don't say anything bad. Don't blast Mike Shildt. Let's all just move on. Let's take the high road. And they did that. They took the high road. Now, some of you say, well, wait a minute, they fired him. So what do you mean that's the high road? Yeah, people get fired. I've been fired. I'm sure some of you have been fired. But there's a way to do it. And there's also, after you've been fired, there's a way to do it. And to Shilt's credit, he really didn't point any fingers. And, well, he had to honor an agreement, too, about that. But, an organization, whether it's a corporation, whether it's the local supermarket, whatever, you have a right to fire employees. But you also have a right to cover your own ass by spreading a lot of nasty stuff about the person you just fired. And John Mozeliak didn't do that. I think that means something. But in this culture we live in today, I don't know that there is such a thing as a high road. If Mozeliak had kept Shildt in place as manager, the staff morale certainly would have imploded. It would have been a horrible way to go into a 2022 season that held a lot of promise in St. Louis. Goldschmidt, Pujols, Arenado, on and on and on. It's a really good team. Won the division, really good team. There was no reason to believe that Shildt would change his ways here. And before you say, well, how do you know that, Bernie? Well, because when given a second chance by the Padres, Shildt repeated the same damn behavior that cost him the Cardinals job. That's why I believe he would not change his ways here. Really easy to connect these dots. And if you think this is being exaggerated, okay, well, let me ask you a question. If the media was making stuff up or embellishing just a little tension between Shildt and the Cardinals, you know how that media is, except for virtually all media who wouldn't even, in our town, wouldn't even report the reason why he got fired. The outcast here, you can count on your boy here. I'm the outcast. Just remember that. That it's actually liberating. So anyway, so if you thought people were making stuff up about, oh, okay, people getting these in this bad, it's not that big of a deal, Okay, well, why didn't Shildt try to hire any of his St. Louis coaches when he took the Padres job? When you see a manager leave, go somewhere else, he almost always has one or two, three coaches follow him. And why didn't any of the St. Louis coaches call up good old Shildt and express their desire? Hey, Shildt, I'd love to work for you in San Diego if you got some. Nobody did that either. Again, Mozeliak could have exposed Shilt's conduct by using back channel sources to leak stories and to smear Shildt, but he never did it. But by remaining totally silent about the breakup, Mozeliak gave his old friend Shildt a much better chance of landing another major league manager's job. Despite their differences in the way that ended, Shildt was a lifelong Cardinal. He loved being a Cardinal. And Mozeliak not only was the guy who made him a Cardinal, he gave Shildt many, many career breaks, good breaks along the way as he moved up the chain. And you know what? Shildt earned that because he's a good baseball man and he's a good manager, but he can't control the things that, whatever those little demons are, he can't control them. And now twice he has imploded. No, understand this. No one in the St. Louis organization, no one supported Mike Shildt as much as John Mozeliak did, period. I'm certain the Padres called Mozeliak to check in about Shildt before they hired him. And whatever Mozeliak told the Padres did not harm Shilt's chances of landing a coaching, then a managing job with the Padres. And if the Padres really wanted to get some dirt, Mo could have said, well, call this guy or call that guy, but leave me out of it. Did that happen? No, because the Padres hired Shildt not once, but twice, first as a coach, then as a manager. Mozeliak gave Shildt his first opportunity to manage in the big leagues. Think about it this way. In some ways, Mozeliak gave Shildt a second opportunity to manage in the big leagues by not maligning Shildt and smearing Shildt and putting nasty stuff out there about Shildt or trying to dissuade the Padres from hiring him. Do you think that's honorable conduct? I do. But then again, I don't have this hateful obsession with John Mozeliak, even though never hesitate to point out, all these things he did to screw up the Cardinals, to take them from being near the top to the middle of the pack. But I don't have a personal hatred that just like keeps me up at night, like some people. So when Mike Shildt, who was giving a second opportunity to manage, and I think John Mozeliak was a big reason behind that, because I think he could have scuttled it, but he didn't. Still on the high road. So when Mike Shildt imploded again, he had only himself to blame, okay? Now, the hater's going to hate, and at some point, perhaps these people will think about getting some help. You can talk to people, and what do you call them, therapists? Maybe get some help. But for all the baseball-related mistakes that John Mozeliak made, and I never held back on that, I have no problem declaring this, no problem whatsoever. John Mozeliak's honesty and his dignity and his honor are intact, which is a hell of a lot more than we can say for a lot of people. Now, let me say this to close and to lighten it up a little bit. I'm sorry that there's no way for me to, after what I have said here, I wish I could give some of you a barf bag, but I can't. Anyway, give it to me in the comment section. That's all good. It's all good. I said what I want to say. That's why I invite you to always say what you want to say. It's all good. Thanks for watching today's Bernie Show, and thanks to DraftKings for presenting the Bernie Show here on STL Sports Central.